Hello everyone, it is Evan here from the Trade Risk, and this is your stock market weekly update for Friday, January the 12th, 2024. Let's kick things off here with earnings season officially underway. The big money center mega cap banks reported on Friday. Not a whole lot of big moves happening. It was mostly kind of muted, some up, some down, but the market seemingly priced in exactly where some of these earnings sort of fell. We'll look at those charts in just a little bit. We had 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs approved this week. Congratulations, Bitcoin bulls. You made it to the big leagues. Wall Street officially has their fangs sunk into Bitcoin now and is able to profit off it with a bunch of these ETFs. We also had Boeing falling 12% this week after sort of a scary event there. Luckily, I think everyone landed safely with that panel blowing off in midair. Bunch of planes got grounded with some investigation happening there for Boeing. Just can't seem to get out of its own way. Don't call it a comeback. Natural gas stocks and natural gas, the commodity, ripping after a horrendous 2023, and we saw a nice rebound here in technology. So lots to get into this week. We're also going to look at some individual stocks. Stay tuned. Let's get into it. All right, we're back. We've got some charts in front of us. TC2000, that's the charting platform we're going to be using. I do have a coupon code in the description of this video, anybody that wants to try the platform. And we do have lots of custom cool layouts, indicators, scans, custom coding, whatever you need done for the platform. We do support it full stop. So check us out at thetraderisk.com, see our TC2000 store if you are a user. Now, let's get into the numbers here. Right-hand column, 1 week returns. You can see a mostly positive week here for the U.S. averages. Dow Jones, S&P, Nasdaq all up nicely here. I really should say S&P and Nasdaq up nicely. Nasdaq up 3.23%. Russell 2000 was flat this week. Dow Jones a little over flat. You can see volatility came out this week, so coming down about 0.6 points here for Nasdaq vol and the VIX. That's good to see going into the weekend, back with a 12 handle for the VIX. Now, if we take a look here at sectors, technology, XLK, the spider sector ETF there, 4.41% coming back. Remember, technology was selling off to start the year. It's only been 2 weeks of trading this year, but technology kind of came immediately getting hit, kind of selling off, seeing some rotation out of it. And now this week back with a strong performance, nice bounce. Communication services sector up 2.5%, followed by consumer staples up 1%. On the downside this week, it was sort of what started the week, the year strong. Energy, utilities, and materials all down negative this week, 1 to 2.5%. Now, if we take a look here at our sector trends, this has our Trade Risk Smart Trend Filter indicator overlaid here, and really not a whole lot of change. You can see energy kind of rolling back over to producing some more bearish signals, but generally speaking, you've got, utilities kind of back into the neutral state, and you've got materials here. Did I say materials? Materials in the sell state here, utilities moving neutral here. So a couple of transitions this week, but generally speaking, mostly positive, constructive breadth here on a daily time frame. Now, speaking of breadth, if we take a look here at the number of stocks hitting 52-week highs, number of stocks hitting 52-week lows, still in the bullish sort of ratio right now. You're still seeing more stocks hitting 52-week highs. That's good. That's constructive. That's positive. That's what we want to see in this market. We'd love to see more of them, but for now, we'll take the positive ratio. We'll keep an eye on it. Of course, every single week, we always go back and look at these two metrics, but we want to see more stocks hitting 52-week highs, and so far, it's decent. Now, in terms of percentage of stocks over 200 SMA, take a look at this. Still flatlining here at 67%. That's pretty strong. Percentage of stocks over 50 SMA starting to cool off a little bit. So you can see that now here, but still north of 70%, historically very kind of strong territory. Now, if we take a look at IBD, so this is Investors Business Daily, shout out to them. They are a sponsor of our our show. They help make the show possible. We have links in the description to get access to their IBD digital product, and this has their IBD 50 list. You can see this is the top 10. Had a really strong recovery week here as well. CrowdStrike in particular, 14.5%, just been such a monster stock. Same thing with Nvidia, nice breakout this week for that big mega cap, huge tech stock at this point. And everything else really kind of following suit. So get access to IBD's list, link in the description of this video. Now, if we take a look here at commodity land, natural gas is absolutely dominating the returns. 1 week return up 16.78%. Take a look at the 1 month performance now for natural gas, up 50%. But here's the ironic and sort of just beautiful part here is look at the 1 year returns for natural gas, minus 41%. 1 month, plus 50%. Only natural gas can give you returns like this. It is just off to the races after a terrible year. If we go right down this list, gold and the dollar and ag ETF here up slightly on the week. Silver not doing a whole lot. Oil was down. Copper was down a little bit. And we have our new Bitcoin ETF here that we're going to start to track. It just doesn't have enough data yet because that started trading this week. It's finally nice to get a nice Bitcoin product here in TC2000. We love TC2000, but we would love if they actually had some spot crypto tracking that we could do here, but unfortunately we can't. So the ETF here is a nice addition. Now, if we take a look here at Treasury yields, you can see, sorry, it looks like we lost a little bit of scaling here. If we take a look at let's see if we go back. Oh, we're on a weekly time frame. Okay, let's fix that. We'll zoom out. That's why my charts were wrong. Okay, so a daily chart here of Treasury yields. You can see we starting to get a little bit of dispersion here. Okay, so if we take a look at the 5 year, for instance, we're sort of kind of rolling back over here a little bit more aggressively. That means 5 year Treasury yields going down. And if we take a look at the 30 year, for instance, take a look at the kind of flatness that's going on here. So it's not rolling over as aggressively here. So you're starting to get a little bit of changing in the steepening of the yield curve right now. Something we'll keep an eye on. Here's the 10 year kind of rolling over a smidge, but kind of in between what the 30 year and the 5 year and the short end is doing. So a little bit of steepening there happening. So let's keep an eye on this as this continues to unfold. Now, if we take a look, notably, I should say, though, the MOVE index here, which is basically the VIX for the Treasury market, is rolling over as well. And that is fairly notable here, coming back down to the kind of the 100 mark, where it's, kind of leveled off here over the past couple of years, bottom end of that range. Now, let's take a look here at some price action. Let's look at the S&P 500. This is the weekly time frame. So the S&P 500 was up nicely 1.84% this week, really kind of took out last week's highs. Last week, of course, was opening up the new year on a little bit of a kind of dreary sort of sell note there, but luckily it didn't get any follow through. We talked about what would things look like if we did get follow through in the S&P 500. We talked about coming down to this 4,600 zone, but we didn't quite get that. We got the exact opposite. In fact, Monday we came kind of ripping up here 1.5% to set the tone for the week, and then it was basically kind of a grind higher throughout the week, and we settled back in at these cycle highs. So for the S&P 500, buyers did step in. They supported us around this 4680 zone, so that's a good reference point. A lot of these bigger bands we have drawn on here are these previous levels that we were paying attention to going all the way back to 2021. But as you can see, the most upper band here is basically the all-time highs, and that's what the market is consolidating underneath right now, is these all-time highs. So the S&P 500 taking its time here, recognizing some significant levels. Probably, lots of folks that were buyers at those previous all-time highs are still selling some shares, getting their money back at break even, right? This sort of hallmark definition of overhead supply, and sort of chewing through that. But right now, technically, savior this week by bulls stepping in, supporting the market, developing a nice range here. I still think there's a lot of constructive action happening. We'll pay attention to the 4,600 on the downside, but as of right now, I'd say looks like the dip has been contained, and we'll see if we can get some type of follow-through breakout action next week. As a reminder, I think we also have the January leap expiration next week, so we should have lots of fun high volume sort of leaps expiring. The first expiration of every year, the January 3rd Friday, is always a big one for individual stocks and the indices, because lots of folks in volume open interest effectively is around those leap periods. So that is the S&P 500. If we go to the Russell 2000 here, you can see it didn't really get the snapback love that the big stocks did. Small cap stocks were basically flat this week, traded for the most part within last week's range, but you can see we're still pulling back here. We're still kind of in this range. Remember, as starting off the new year, we were sort of looking at small caps to see if they could break out of this base that it's been in for quite some time. So far, the answer is no. We're back into this range. Doesn't look terrible here from a weekly perspective. Remember, the small cap index, Russell 2000, basically from the November lows all the way up to the highs made 2 weeks ago, was up 27%. So the fact now that we have, essentially pulled back 3 weeks in a row, 6.5%, is still pretty darn constructive from a sort of impulse leg to pullback ratio. So let's keep an eye on it. Don't count small cap stocks out. Don't sleep on them. But for now, big ones, big mega cap, technology, Nasdaq, all that good stuff is back taking the front and center stage. Finally, if we take a look at the Qs here, you can see that action on full display this week, 3.23% going back to just about a new weekly closing high here. You can see again, going back to the highs from 2021, we are above them. And Nasdaq, again, is just trying to reclaim that leadership status. So that's what's going on there in terms of major markets. Let's take a look at natural gas. So this is, I think, really sort of captivating this year. 16.78%, huge volume week. Again, let's push this up here. Let's take a look at the volume that came in this week. Absolutely off the charts. You cannot find anything with so much volume coming in. There could have been, I don't know. I didn't want to speculate. I don't know if that was just a lot of funds balancing or something else taking place here, but just a tremendous amount of volume in the UNG ETF here, coming back into this old range. Again, 2023, this year, started all the way up here around $14, $15 a share. I don't know if there was any splits happening, but we're still down 55% from, again, where we were a year ago. So lots of catch up to do. Perhaps natural gas looks like it wants to come all the way back to the top end of this range around $7.80 or so. So good momentum there. Congrats to the buyers that were brave enough to step in and participate in this nice uptrend. Covered a lot of ground, but that momentum remains extremely strong. If we take a look at the 10-year Treasury IEF bond fund here, you can see again just kind of going sideways, starting to move back up towards those prior highs. If we take a look at TLT, this is what I'm talking about. Not so much of a bid here. It's not as aggressively kind of bouncing back to those highs. So something we, again, will keep an eye on here as we track the Treasury yields and those underlying bond funds. So that was, I think, a lot of the majors I wanted to talk about. Let's take a look here at, this is sort of a new screen. This is an old layout, but I'm sort of enhancing it. So this is available, or actually soon to be available. I don't think it's available right now on our website. But if we take a look here at the strongest and weakest stocks, so I've got this broken down with sectors up here in the top left, corresponds with this chart here, and then we have industry sub-industries down here, and it's this chart up here. And so if we just take a look here at sectors, okay, we're going to take a look at the industries. Apologize. Just at the industries we're going to take a look at, and we're going to click on this. We're going to sort. I want to take a look at the industries that are closing at new 1 month highs. So that's biotech up here in the top right. And then if we take a look at some of the strongest stocks this week in biotech, so we had AMAM. I think this was a buyout merger, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know the full story here. It was up 105%, huge gap up, kind of dead volume. That's usually a giveaway of some type of buyout happening. You have ARDX. SANA. Look at some of the moves here. Biotech continues to be one of the strongest sort of rotation off of, kind of off to the races for 2024. Summit Therapeutics, lots of things. Some of these are smaller in market cap size, still $2 billion for this one, but lots of things working very, very nicely here this week for biotech. Continues to be a very, very strong area to be. We also had internet content and information closing at new 1 month highs again this week. If we take a look here at some of these individual stocks on the internet com side of things, you have things like DoorDash, right, up 10% this week. Also, this chart here, weekly time frame. So you got a nice 4-week pullback, starting to break back out. DoorDash doing really well. Old familiar Meta working 6.5% back up. Looks like it just wants to get back up to those prior all-time highs for Meta. And Twilio also had a nice performance this week, up 6%. You can see still trying to work itself out of what could have been a nice kind of accumulation base here. Nice uptrend that could be emerging for this stock. So keep an eye on that. Google, Alphabet, Spotify, lots of familiar names in there as well. So lots of kind of cool things here when you look at the 1 month highs. If we look at the 1 month lows in terms of industries this week, it was solar. Solar is just back to getting kind of hammered here if we take a look at some of this performance. So you can see some of these particular stocks, again, old familiar names, but are just really sort of struggling this week. Almost every single one in the red. Solar Edge just rolling back over, Sunrun kind of rolling back over. Lots of these stocks, Enphase now starting to roll back over. What's going to be interesting for solar is to see if we can put in some type of higher low. So we'll keep an eye on it. They did have, a lot of these stocks did have a nice rip here from November to the start of the year, but now they're starting to roll back over. So let's see if they can catch a higher low, but still just really tough kind of spot. Banks, generally speaking, were down this week. So again, they were reporting earnings like we talked about. Let's take a look at some of those individual stocks that were reporting. So we had JP Morgan, for instance, heavy volume coming in, gapped up, started to run, reversed, kind of closed near the lows. But, after all was said and done, a lot of volume traded hands, but we didn't quite get any big movement here. Well, it'll be interesting to see if we do get follow through to some of this selling. We had Citigroup also out, which was basically flat, kind of big range today, but didn't, closed up about 1%. So good to see a little bit of stabilization there. We had Bank of America, which was also gapping down, but then sort of recovered. So lots of these banks. I think Wells Fargo was the worst performer. Yeah, this was down 3.34%. So Wells Fargo clearly kind of getting a little bit more of a reaction here to the downside, but generally speaking, banks didn't really change a whole lot of structure that was happening. Now, last but not least, I want to look at a couple of stocks that were showing up on our scans. So we run scans kind of daily here. A few of the names I want to talk about. So Palo Alto. So again, this goes back to the tech play here. So weekly chart. Look at this breakout, 15% this week here. So it was checking back. It was selling off. It had a nice kind of pullback for about 3 weeks. It was down about 11%, very light volume. And then it just came kind of ripping back this week. So this showing up on our fresh breakout scan. We also had Vericel, so VCEL. This was showing up on a bunch of our momentum scans this week. And you can see kind of a bullish engulfing bar, but also a breakout bar. It's been super tight and sideways, heavy volume coming in here, and it's in the right sector, which is biotech, which has been hot. So I don't know a whole lot about the company per se, but technicals here and the breakout potential looking pretty good. I'm going to go through these pretty quick. Melly showing up on our pullback strength scan. Look at this, another kind of multi-week pullback, nice rip to the upside. Home Depot, same thing, 3 weeks down, nice move up. Big move in November, December. We have Masco here, which is basic materials. Nice 3-week check back, and now starting to get back up again. Palo Alto showing up here again in our other scan, and there's more stocks that we don't need to go through. On the downside, so here's one. This is the New Jersey Resources Corp. Again, don't know anything about the story, but pretty bearish action here. Second half of the year was really tough for it. Rebounded in that fourth quarter, and now it looks like it's rolling back over. We also had some high volume kind of weak closes as we call another scan of ours, very bearish here. Hewlett Packard kind of thrusting off the lows, very heavy volume coming in. Also AMPH. So this is in healthcare sector, but this is seeing a pretty good thrust off, heavy volume, kind of selling off, breaking the uptrend that it's been in. So something for everyone here. Now, one thing I actually meant to show beforehand was the new Bitcoin ETFs here. So I've got a watch list of all of the new listed. So we've got 11 ETFs that are now listed for spot Bitcoin. GBTC, that's the old one here. This is Grayscale, which now has a lot of price history. Formerly, though, this was sort of a closed-end trust, which deviated from its NAV and all kinds of other sort of issues or special situations related to closed-end funds. But now this converted over to a spot Bitcoin ETF. This should be tracking along with all these other ETFs. But I've been looking at all of the different issuance here, and it seems like iShares, BlackRock, to no surprise, is sort of winning the fund allocation, let's call it. So two big red days here to start off the Bitcoin trading. But iShares, IBIT, seems to be attracting the most dollar volume. Fidelity, not far behind, and then ARK in sort of a distant third, ARKB. So it'll be very interesting to track and follow these over the coming sort of days here as you know, Wall Street really sort of gets their hands dirty with some Bitcoin ETFs. Last thing I meant to show as well, now we're running long, was the Boeing chart here. So this is Boeing, which we talked about at the top of the show, of course, down over 12.5% this week off after, you know, half of the fleet or portion of the fleet being grounded for further inspection. You can see super heavy volume coming in here. Weekly chart, you know, was just starting to break out, was just starting to get going, starting to clear above these 2022, 2021 kind of highs here. And then with this news really kind of falling back into this old range. So chart really needs to just kind of reset here. Definitely lost a little bit of revenue this quarter now with some of this fleet being grounded. So it'd be interesting to see next earnings report on how much this affects things. Of course, safety is first here in terms of making sure no other planes are actually, you know, sort of compromised in this fashion. So there you have it. Bitcoin, some trade ideas. By the way, all of those stock scans we looked at with those individual stocks are available on our website. If you are a TC2000 user, you can get some of those stock scans we were looking at. But let us know your thoughts. That's it for today's show. What do you think about this new Nasdaq leadership? Do you think it's back here to stay with technology, or are we going to see some more of that small cap love in the weeks to come? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, and also let us know what you think about some of those individual trade ideas. Should we spend more time looking at individual stocks and some trade setups, or do you rather just keep it high level? Let us know what you're thinking. So, as always, appreciate everybody tuning in and watching. Like the show if you like it, share it if you love it, and have yourself a great weekend. We'll be back here next Friday. Take care.